is the one you have, the very face you have, which for me is terrible. God, I know by now, yes, I'm very old. Though you know how old, yet you remain. All the fear that I feel, the love that I don't feel, are of many, many years. All the sadness that I know, the faith that I oppose, are of many, many years. But I'm old by now. Yes, I'm very old. But if you wish, you will stay Please listen, Lord, stay on here with me. Repeat again to me your loving word. Repeat again the word that with your love you gave to me one day, with which I was saved.
It's a great pleasure to be able to welcome here Father Julian, who I've known a good number of years, who I consider to be a true friend. And this word friend, I think, helps me to introduce Father Carron and what it means for him to be here with us, because he comes to us precisely as a friend. Not a friend in some sentimental way, but truly a friend to us, truly an ally to us. We might say, in our language, an ally to our humanity, but our humanity is us ourselves. So he comes to us as a friend to our journey, as a friend to our life, as a friend to us, as a friend to accompany us and to help us in the journey of our lives, in the journey of our journey through this world. So the opportunity today is for us to have a conversation with him. First we'll hear what he might like to say to us. It was his desire to come and meet our communities all across this country, which he's been doing these last few weeks, and he desired also to come here to meet us. So we listen to what he has to say to us, and then we'll have the opportunity to ask him the questions that we might like to bring to him. I will ask that those who come out to ask questions come to the microphone and ask your question, and then remain there until Father Carron dismisses you, if you do that. Just because it's a conversation, it's not a quiz, it's a conversation.
I'm very happy to be with you this afternoon. And the first thing that surprises me is the depth in which we can use the usual word, friend. Only by the fact that I was listening this word with another meaning, not abstract meaning of friendship, but the real meaning of friendship. Because a friend is a person who cares about our life, who accompany to our fulfillment, to accompany our life to this fullness of life that everyone desires. We are together today and every day in our life for this goal. Our friends is not another world. other goal, another aim, another purpose that is help us each other, accompany each other, not to come down in this attempt that everyone was desiring to fulfill our desires, to fulfill the only reason because it's not worthy to live, not only for surviving, but to live with a depth that is impossible outside of a friendship, our friendship. I hope that receive also from you, from your testimony, a help for living myself, because there is no one who teach and the other who learn. Both of us teach and learn, because everybody can offer the result of experience, the journey he's doing. Nobody, even the last one who arrives today, who prevents of offering to our friendship something from his own experience, from what he is learning in his life. That's that.
All right, questions?
Everything is clear here. Who are you?
So I've been in the movement now for about 5 years. And before I encountered the movement, I was at a point in my life where I was doing the things that I was told I should do to be a good Catholic. And part of that was making a holy hour, going to adoration every day, going to Mass every day, saying the rosary every day, saying the liturgy of the hours every day. And if you weren't doing those things, you were a bad Catholic. And when I joined the movement, all of that ceased. It stopped. And before that, when I was doing all those things, I was miserable. And I was getting to the point where I was about to just quit everything. I couldn't find any peace or happiness. And then I encountered the movement and things changed. I saw something that I wanted that I couldn't find in the past. And my question is...
What is this?
My question is...
No, not your question. What is this is something that you have found here.
Something
It's a dialogue.
Something that pulls at my heart. And I can't... In the beginning, it was like something that was shining in the dark that I had to go after. And that I continued to go after. And since then, the presence of Christ has become more real. And the question is that today, recently I've started going back to Mass every day. But there's a resistance in me because I don't want to fall back into that miserableness that I had before. But the Mass is a good thing, and so there's a conflict there. And there's been guilt the last 5 years for not doing the things that I was doing before. And the confusion is that while I was doing that, I was miserable at the same time. And in CL, we don't necessarily discuss, because a lot of the charisms today, the basis or foundation surrounds adoration and Mass and the Rosary, and that's all they talk about and do. Where here in CL, we don't necessarily talk about those things all the time.
The question, what is, this is an important question. The question, what is the nature of Christianity? What is the essence of Christianity? The nature of Christianity? And what's the method that is implied in this Christianity? The essence of Christianity is an event that is happening now. We have in our Easter post, Christianity is not only an event that can explain the beginning of an history which arrived to us now, but something that is happening now. So, if Christianity is not an event, a present event, a current event, in which we can experience the same thing that experience those who encounter Christ according to the gospel, we are using the same word. We are reading the same event. But for us, Christianity is a different thing than was for the disciples. Because the disciples, you can imagine what happened in the first meeting with Jesus, John and Andrew, who they woke up that morning, deciding to go to hear John the Baptist. They couldn't imagine that morning, what would happen after. And what happened? That they met somebody, a human being, and they were struck by his presence, by his way of look at them, by the words. And they remained the whole afternoon with him. We don't know exactly what's happened during this hour. The only thing we know is that they decide to come back, to look for him. It seems we read this kind of stories in the gospel, and everything is taken for granted. But you can ask yourself for a moment and think how many times you have met somebody and you are decided to look for her the day after. Maybe never. Because it's so, that means, what is the exceptionality, what they encounter. But this is in this relationship with him. They met a human being, because through all the possibilities that the mystery could use to reveal himself to human being, he decided this one. He chose this one to become a man. They would send us a set of rules from the heavens, or to write a letter saying what Christianity is about, or a set of values which Christianity would consist. But he decided another method. The method that corresponds to our human experience, according to the way in which the mystery God has created man. Because it's amazing. Because God, to reveal what is reality, what is the most important thing of reality, for instance, love. How the mystery introduces us to love. Not through a lesson, not through a course at the university, but being born in a family where we are surrounded by love, or falling in love, in which is revealed what is really to be loved, and what is the important of the other person for us, in such a way that we remain astonished. And you can see the difference between to read a book about love and to fall in love. It's different a little bit. Imagine it. What the difference? What the difference between a treaty about God, a treaty about the Trinity, a treaty about Christ, a treatise, or to meet Him, to be in love, to be so struck by the importance of His presence that everything was different after that. For this reason, God chose this method, incarnation, in which we can have a relationship with somebody in which is revealed what means is about. Instead of sending us what is the meaning of life, a lesson about what is the meaning of life, He became man to show us what is the meaning of life. To show us, look at me, this is life. This kind of freedom, this kind of intensity, this kind of mercy, this kind of forgiving, this kind of surplus or humanity, the intensity of humanity that we couldn't imagine before. Even 2,000 years later, we can imagine. And we met somebody who lives in that world. Who it is? Why? Can you explain how can you live in such a way? We are struck as the first time, like the first time. And this is the possibility of communicating Christianity. Christianity is interesting only in such a way. If we can encounter people in which life is so intensive, so wonderful, with such a meaning, with a possibility of breathing in every circumstance, for a possibility of joyful, of being joyful, that we desire for us this life. And for this, so Christianity is communicated through this changed humanity, for these new creatures. Because after Christ, the only possibility of communicating this new life, this meaning of life, this new life that Christ brings us, is only through a witness. A witness, what does it mean? The continuation of this incarnation of the meaning of life in a person. The continuation of this, of the incarnation, of the meaning of life, of the intensity of life, of the, in which we can recognize the same gaze as Zacchaeus or Samaritan woman would find in the past. The same, for this we are so astonished when every one of us can intercept in the daily life such a person. But this mystery that is so attractive, so fascinating, is so beyond our possibilities, that if somebody asks us, but how can it possibly live in such a way? How is it possible? It's not possible. It's not possible. The origin is not possible for human beings. The origin of this possibility is beyond our energy, our power. It's only a grace, the presence of Christ. The presence of Christ that keeps communicating to us, first of all in the sacraments. For this reason, we go to the Mass, because this is the origin, the real origin of this newness, that it knows, because we are powerful to do that. It's not because it's our performance, because we are really brave people, coherent people only. Because it's not only problem of coherence, as you have seen in your life. It's a newness, it's something diverse, something different that we can see. But the origin of this is, for this reason, if all these kind of things are not together, it's like if Christian life could be shattered. It's shattered in different pieces. Sacrament, to be together, new life, no? Different kind of things. Different kind of gesture, but you can imagine. if you look at the example of being in love, we can have a treatise about love, a woman, a man, a definition of affection, a definition of generosity, and we can have before us all this kind of stuff. But what is different is not that we have a lot of pieces. Falling in love is that all of this is united in our experience. This is the Christian event. Many people have the book of love, the woman, the man, affection, but they are not in love anymore. Many Christians can keep some aspect Christian life, another aspect, but if Christianity is not an event in the present, Christianity has lost what was from the beginning, because the Christian event is the generation of this new creature that is a new life that we can see, touch with our hand, see with our eyes. What we have seen, says Señor, what we have touched with our hand is what we want to communicate to you. This is Christianity. If the Christianity, the only way of conveying Christianity is this life, this new creature, this new humanity that has his origin in the Eucharist and in the sacrament and in the prayer, because we are so poor people that we can't, we are unable to generate a people like that. But the question is, the miracle, the newness, the surprise is when we can meet somebody in which all these kind of things are happening. Because otherwise, with the same ingredients, with the same word, Christianity, love, no, or Christ, sacrament, we can make another soup. Different soup. With the same ingredients. With the same words. But the soup that people are smart enough and not confused. When they don't see a people, when they don't see person, one person, in which they can understand, they can touch this newness, Christianity is not interesting. For this reason, many people left. Left in the past and is living in the present. Because the only possibility of being attracted by Christ is by jealousy. Because I decide what I am seeing in this person. And I don't want to miss this one. And became friends. We became friends because we don't want to miss what we can see in some people. But this, everything is united. For this reason, you are right to return to the sacrament. Because it's the only way in which you can explain what is happening in your life. Because without this, you are not aware of the origins of what will happen in your life. An adult person is who is aware of all the elements of the Christian experience that is happening contemporaneously in a life. And all this, not one aspect or another, this is the whole Christian event that is happening now. Okay. Because after that, I didn't remember to answer to your resistance. Because you are resistant. No? It's different to attend the sacrament after this. True or not? It's impossible to return, to come back to this way of approaching sacrament after this event. Don't worry.
I'm Marco from Houston. While you were talking, a few days ago we had school community in Houston, and we had a very nice, I thought it was a very interesting school community, and at the end of the school community we got an email from one of the girls that was there, and she said, please take me out of the mailing list, because I felt like the discussion, because I don't know why, the discussion sometimes was kind of offensive, and I don't think that this is the right fit. So just please take me out, and also she added something at the end, like I'm not sure about that, but I felt like she was saying what you're saying.
There is a lot of dwellings in the church.
Yeah. No, but what I found extremely provoking on one side, because I was leading school community, and it was actually the first time I was leading that school community. But anyways, on one side I said, come on, I cannot even be free of saying what I have to say. As you say, we're within friends, and I want, with my friends, I want to be free of saying what I think is true for me, without having the problem to be polite with everybody, which is a big thing here. And but you always need to. It seems that not to offend people, you can be. Of course, I'm always trying to valorize. To highlight what there's good, but I want to say what is true for me, at least. And so that's something that the first reaction was kind of say, you know what, go to hell. There's a lot of places in the church where she said it's not the good fit. On the other side, right after, I thought about, I called a friend of mine, which is a good friend of her, and I was really moved by what you said in terms of what's the friendship between us. Because I would have never thought about caring about her. Because I don't care if she stays with the movement. I care for her. No, seriously, I care for her to be herself. She can be herself anywhere else. But if you see something that is, if you see that diversity that you say, the human difference, and you're not faithful to that, if you don't seriously go after that, then you will never find a place. And to me, it was striking to me that I'm a friend with her, like I'm not friend with many other people, and I see this as actually a good opportunity now, because at least we'll clarify what we care. And the other thing that because the other day, the same school community after, another guy, which is a young guy, a new guy, he came and he's been with us for a while, and he said, "Sorry guys, but I don't see what you say you see. I'm having a good time with you, but I don't see this, right?" And again, I had first I had I thought about saying, just stay. Since you're just stay here, can't stay, don't leave. But I also felt like the urgency to tell him why. he needs to stay. Because I mean, for me, now, it's like when things happen, it's like you're called to say, stay, sure, but stay because what you, as you say, we need to give names to what we have in front of us. You see a friendship you've never seen before. You don't understand why. You don't understand. That's the same for me. Not that I see Christ every day, but I mean, it's the loyalty, the level of, and I don't know if this is the experience that we're talking about, this level of simplicity to say, look, I don't know, I don't understand Christ, whatever, but I see something which is new, and I need to be faithful.
The first thing that we need to clarify is what are we looking for when we belong to the church? What are we looking for? It's only to be together? There are many plans in the world. Sharing some kind of experience, to do together some kind of activities. There are many people in the world that organize better these kind of activities. So the question is to understand what is the meaning of being together. Because I can understand that some people can go away. Because I don't know what is the way in which the mystery God can bring them to their destiny. I don't know. I am happy that they can find their own path. But I don't want to waste my time in life. I want to take seriously my life and to do a journey with the people who decide to do it. Evidently with kindness, but decide. And only in such a way we can help us each other. If someone decides anyone had to decide. But otherwise, could happen the contrary. That if we are not serious with our life, somebody who looks for this seriousness, who is looking for somebody who really takes seriously life, when arrive to our place, and all of the people there are not serious, he go away, they say. Because it's not possible to do a place in which everybody can feel at home without taking seriously life. Because otherwise, I am uneasy in this place. What is the goal of the church? What is the meaning of the church? Live the Christian event. If somebody wants another thing, and go. So the question, the first question for us is to clarify ourselves what is the reason to be together. We are really looking for something in our life that can be really an answer of our longing for happiness, for our intensity of life. We are longing for this, or we are longing for some people who fill our free time with some kind of activities. This is the first point of clarifying, because one of the most saddest thing today is that there are many places in which there are a lot of activities, but they are useless. I remember, I always remember one thing that happened to me once, 20 years ago maybe, in a visit to some friends in Barcelona. I arrived to a house of a couple of friends, and by chance there were there two girls that had come to visit this family, because the wife was teaching in a high school, in a public high school of religion. And we started to speak about life. And after a while, I asked them, where do you live? The Christian life. They answered, one in a parish and another in a group of a school. And what do you do in these places? And they started without stop the kind of activities that they were doing during their gathering. A lot of activity without stop. In a moment, I was tired. Stop. What is the meaning of this? What is useful for you with all these activities? They remain a little confused about my question, and I try to explain what is the meaning of my question. What I want to ask you is, I can explain with an example. If both of you are about finishing the high school, so something about math, maybe have you learned. Do you think that both of you can transmit some kind of certainty in math to a little boy of 6 years old? Something of math at your age, can you teach to a boy 60-year-old? Of course. The answer was immediate. But about life? Silence. Are you able to transmit something with certainty about life at the end of the high school? In that moment arrived the mother from the kitchen and told us about a question of her daughter. 2 days before, the daughter asked to her mother, but life is always like that. It's so bored. There is nothing else in life. 6 years old. Do you have something to answer to this girl, 6 years old? Silence. And I understood for the rest of my life that many people are involved in many activities. But at the end of this activity, of participating in this kind of activity, they don't have nothing of communicating with certainty to a little girl. They can communicate something about math, but not about the meaning of life. Nothing with certainty about life. why it's not worthy to live, what is the way of living in a wonderful way. They don't have any idea. And many of the places in the Carron outside are so many activities without any goal. I can understand why, at least in Spain, many young people, after 3, 4, or 6 years in a Paris, when they became 18 or 20, abandon the church. Because what is the interest? They are not anymore adolescents. They are not only people who need to organize life. In another places, the life is organized better than in the parishes, so they abandon the church because it's useless for life. We need to understand what are you looking for in a parish, what in a movement, in the church, whatever. What are we looking for? Because otherwise, Christianity lost its interest for life. Because Christianity is interested, is helpful to live, to wake up to the morning, to face job, to face the difficult circumstances that we need to face family fight, everything. If it is not useful for this, what is the meaning of life, of Christianity? Why is it reasonable to be a Christian? And for the reason that Giussani insists to all of us about this point, because we, both at the spiritual side, he was convinced that only a faith arising from life experience, only if Christian faith is an actual experience, a current experience, in which we can see the confirmation of the goodness of this experience in the real experience. Only this kind of faith can survive in a world in which everything said the opposite. If we don't have an experience, if Christian life is for us not an experience, in which we can see how not worthy is to live the Christian life in a moment or another, Christian life is missing it's losing the meaning. And this is the reason because many people has abandoned the church. Not because they have any problem with the Trinity or with the Christian doctrine. Some of them could be about the ordination of women. But most of them, the majority of them, abandon the church because it's not interesting for life. Christianity started in the world because to be with Christ was interesting. The most interesting adventure. They remain with Him, even facing difficulties, only by this. Only for the reason. If Christianity is not remaining something that is interesting for life, what is the reason to be Christian? And this is the challenge. Because if we don't have this, we can keep participating in such a quantity of formal Christian gestures. We can maybe attend the Mass, but the center of our interest is displaced, we can keep getting married, but our husband or our wife is not the interest of life. Maybe we can keep going for a while, but it's not interesting. The same could happen with Christianity. We can keep participating in somehow in the life of the church, but Christ is not the interest. It is sufficient to think, every one of you, how many people do you know that Christ is decisive, crucial for living? Not how many people come to the church, how many people attend to Mass, how many people of these people that you know that are Christian, Christ is crucial for living, for the waking of the morning, for burying themselves, for embracing themselves. How many? This is, if Christ is not so, if Christ is not this presence that we know, that we need more than the bread for it, Christianity is coming down. Christianity is declining in our lives. This is the real question. How Christianity can remain interesting for life. Because, friends, the question of life is this, because we can be interested in many things. We can see this in our life every day. We can be interested in some device or in some mechanism or in some trip or whatever. But how much does interest endures? How much does this interest endure in life? After a while, we forget. We forget. We can see when we move from a house to another, new, how many things we recognize that were interesting in the past, and it's how many years that we forget. When we move, look at this. It's here. At the beginning, I can't live. I couldn't live without this. And after a while, I forgot. It's the same in life. Here, the real question is there which is real interesting for the life, for the whole life, which remain interested for the whole life, and for the whole eternity. Otherwise, life is a disgrace, a misfortune, because we are interested for a while and decay. We are interested for a while and decay. We are interested for a while and everything decays. And this is the path to become skeptical. We don't believe in nothing. There is no answer to our desire of fulfillment. There is no answer to the desires of my heart. For this reason, if Christianity is like that, we can imagine that Christianity belongs to the same kind of stop, and after a while it decays. The interest comes down. But Christ is not that. Christ is not that. And this is the possibility for us to be together with such a desire to verify what Christ really is, that we can be interested in Christ for the whole life. Otherwise, I'm sorry for everybody else, life is a disgrace. We need to be content with the leftover. Because it's not nothing that can be really interesting for the whole life. For this reason, we need to be serious with that. Somebody wants. At the same time, we need to ask ourselves in front of this kind of challenging people if we are doing what we need to do. Sometimes it's because people don't make serious, and sometimes it's because we are not serious with the people. This is a question that we need to face at the same time.
Brother,
I was very provoked by the provocation you gave us at the fraternity exercises when you were saying, speaking about the disciples after Easter, and you were saying what prevailed in their hearts, in their eyes, in their self-awareness, if not His living presence. It was so evident for them that they could not rip it away. It was a presence that overcame any doubt, any shadow. It was imposed. It imposed in itself. And then you were saying, imagine if we could have the same experience now, to be completely, determined by this presence. And so, and this has been an open question for me since then. So, looking at my day that I spend with the kids now often, and doing other things. So, if I can really say that I'm determined by this presence, by this presence that then you say, said later, you said, with Jesus the mystery became, in the insuperable expression of Father Giussani, an affectively attractive presence. So I'm asking myself if I really can say that he is this affectively attractive presence, not just the last chance of solving my problems, but like a presence that I love, like a human face that I love. And I have to say that it's been very important for me to hear from you again that the step towards this awareness is to recognize an authority in my life. Because I can see that, especially in the last, it's been like this since I made the movement, but I'm more aware of this I've been more aware of this in the last year, and since the exercises, I think, I'm realizing that really I have to go back to this faces when I came back from the exercises and I look at my kids. I could be determined by him, by this presence. And then during the following week, less and less. And I realized I had to go and see these friends somehow, stop at the house or at the parish, or so I'm realizing that this is the work I had to do to win the resistance of thinking that I'm on my own and I have to do everything by myself, since I've met him once. So I wanted to ask you if you can tell us your experience of authority. How do you live this sonship, so that I can better understand also what steps I have to take.
Thank you. Because this question is also crucial. How can His presence, the presence of Christ, can be so decisive for life? And there is one thing that you are saying. The first thing is authority. No? What is authority? Authority not is a role. We can understand always authority. Somebody who commands, no? Who is the boss. Authorities, for us, according to Yusani, are people who awaken us, no? A challenge our reason, at our freedom, at our desire of happiness with the way they are living. No? It's, look at me, you don't want to live such a way. No? This is authority. It's not something imposed by somebody. It's the authority that the disciples recognize in Jesus. Jesus has this kind of authority because they wanted to live in such a way. This is authority, not somebody who is has only the role. No? And the grace to be in front of such a people is so decisive that we can deal without this. It's impossible to live Christian faith. No? They testify us that Christ is so present, so determined in their life, that without this presence, determining his life or their life, they could exist, as you are saying. They could exist. So, they are the testimony of the resurrection of Christ, because Christ is so present, as you are saying before, as was present in the apostles. Because his newness, this newness is impossible for a human being. Only if Christ is at work in this person. And this is the first step of this journey, for me and for everyone. But this is not the end, because as you can see in your life, and this is the meaning of your question, you want that this life that you can see before you in another person become yours. Is your desire. No? That's the question. It's not enough. Are not enough the witness. The witnesses are decisive, crucial for us, but it's not the end. If I met this witness, they awaken all my desire to be like that. To be like that. But at the same time, I need to understand how can I live the life I can see in them. And this not enough to see them. What is the way in which Jesus, what is the method that Jesus offered to his disciples to become like him? Follow. Follow me. The only possibility of being like another one is to follow him. And to follow means to be available for a journey. For this reason, Giussani said, if you really want that this that you are seeing in a window become yours, you need to be available for a journey. Expect a journey, not a miracle. That dodges your responsibility, that eliminates your toil, that makes your freedom mechanical. And this means that you need to follow a proposal, a journey, in order that this life became yours. All the life of the movement is this proposal. Again and again and again, a proposal offered to your reason and to your freedom, in order that this life that you can see in another one can become yours. And little by little, if you are available for this journey, you could see. You will see your life. But it is the result of a journey. It's useless that I can explain you. No? It's the possibility if you are really open to this journey, because as you have started to experience, you can see more and more how determined is Christ in your life. But only if you are available for this journey. The journey is really net in all the proposals that we are doing constantly in the life of the movement. No? For this reason, is only to follow. No? To work at the spiritual exercise is a whole proposal. No? I can summarize now how all the proposals that we have made in the spiritual exercise, that you have lived, no? A journey, you can take seriously you decide, look at yourself, look you decide, and this is the first step to decide that Christ in front of the decide can be more decisive in your life, because if you are alone, or if you are sad, you know at this point that this is the possibility for you to answer to this sadness, that this sadness is the possibility of a relationship with Christ. This is the proposal. This is the way in which I experience what Christ is me, because in front of this silence, in front of my solitude, of my loneliness, I need, and this is the technique, I need to enter in the relationship with Christ. How can you live without this? How can you live without entering there? I can't. No? But I can't mean that when I am sad, or I am alone, or I feel the nostalgia of Him, it's for me a possibility of a relationship. It's not mechanical. It's a journey. You can answer, you can endures this situation without entering the relationship with Christ, or what we are proposing, we can use this kind of situation to enter in the relationship with Christ. It is simple. All the children do this. When they are in trouble, when they are sad, when they are alone, what do they do? To look for his mother, for the mother. It's simple. They don't care. They look for their mother. In every occasion, whatever happened in our life, we use this, what is happening. That we are fear or we are alone. That we are sad or we have are full of this nostalgia. We can use all these kind of things to enter in the relationship. Only if you accept this challenge, you can start to recognize what does mean Christ. What does Christ mean in your life? And at the end, I assure you that you can't live without Him. This is the moment in which Christ is determined for you.
Okay, the last questions for today.
So I recently went on the Young Workers Vacation, I mentioned before, and on the vacation we read the text that you gave to the clue titled "The Urgent Need for Judgment," and there was one part that really stuck out to me. So it was talking about judgment, comparing your experience with the true desires of your heart, and that you know that it's a true judgment because there's a sense of freedom that you're freed from. I don't know, things. And it also reminded me of the readings just this week that when Jesus says that his yoke is easy, his burden is light. And on the vacation, I had a wonderful time and I spent the weekend with beautiful people, and it was really inspiring and made me want to live the way that I saw and stay in these relationships with these great people that helped me to walk on this journey. And when I got home, I was just overwhelmed with how much work that I had to do. There's so much stuff that needs to change in my life in order to stick with this. And so I didn't feel free. I felt really burdened with all of these things that I have to fix. So I guess, can you explain what you meant by that freedom that's felt when a judgment is true? And maybe also how I can face that work that needs to be done in order to reach that.
That freedom is very, very simple. Where is Chris? Chris, tell us what our friend Ottoman told us a week ago, because we met a guy from Oman. He told us this experience.
I'm a friend of Father Carron and Father Michael, and I've been traveling with Father Carron, so it's nice to meet you. We were in Notre Dame, and we met a man who was about 30 years old. He is Indian from India. His family was Hindu, and he was raised in Oman as a Hindu. He met and fell in love with a girl when he was in his early 20s, maybe 20 years old. This girl was a Catholic girl, and he told us that the overwhelming experience of being in love with this girl was the experience of jealousy, anger, and possessiveness. He was constantly worried about this girl. At a certain point, she told him, I'm not in love with you anymore. I'm going to break up with you, and I have a new boyfriend, and I'd really like it if you'd remain my friend. And so you can imagine that he was, you know, smoke coming out of his ears, and oh yeah, and so, and that announcement came along with an invitation to spend the weekend with them, her and her new boyfriend, at a retreat, a Catholic retreat. And so he said, yes, I'm going to come, because in his mind he thought, I'm going to wreck this weekend for you and your new boyfriend. And so, yeah, no problem, I'm going to come along, sure. And so he went on this retreat. It was the first time that he had ever been with Catholic people in his life. And he quite frankly said, I don't know what happened to me. He said, I found the anger over the course of the weekend disappearing. I found the jealousy over the weekend disappearing. I could not believe when I heard myself tell her on the Sunday as we were leaving, I love you, I want to always love you, I hope that your friendship with this man deepens, etc. He said, I couldn't believe what happened. He said, when I went back to my family, he said, it wasn't only in the relationship with this girl that I was very angry and jealous and possessive. He said that I was often angry at home, and the relationship with my parents was one of continuous conflict. When I got home, after about a week, my parents came to me and said, what happened to you? You're completely different. You're not angry anymore. And so he told us that his experience of leaving the church was this experience of being completely and totally freed from anger and jealousy and possessiveness. And above all, he kept saying it was the freedom to love, to want to really love, to the freedom to discover that I wanted to love. And so this is the
freedom. This kind of freedom introduces Christ in life. And we can recognize that Christ is present because we can see, touch with our hand this freedom. That is, as you can see, a surprise. Because the last thing that this guy could have in mind is that going to this retreat, Catholic retreat, has a result this freedom, because he was really angry with this guy. But the last thing is that he could imagine is this experience of freedom. This is the real judgment. But we can recognize that our judgment is real because of this freedom. If somebody is, imagine that you are your mother, that there is some kind of clues that make her worry about his health. And they need to do some kind of analysis for understanding what is about. It's useless that you arrive and trying to console only your mother. Your mother, I want to know what is the result of this analysis. This is the only judgment that can liberate your mind. It's a judgment, not only some kind of complaint, some kind of consolation, some kind of sentimental stuff. It's not. What is really liberating is the truth. And this is the judgment. And the question is that we can be educated to this judgment, because many times life is a burden because we are in front of the life and we are afraid of judgment. No? And we don't want to face life. But one decisive point, crucial point in my life is when it was unbearable for me not to judge. I want to know I want to know. I don't want only to be concerned. I want to know if it is true or not is true. I want to know. This is judgment. And I am uneasy until I can judge. Because man is made for certainty. Uncertainty is only stem from judgment. I remember I could do many examples of it, but I remember one in a meeting that asked me, because at the end it was the most important concern for me. But what is the judgment of Christ about me? What does Christ think about me? Important question, no? Because we are very, very worried about this, no? We are many times afraid of this question. And that somebody can look at this question. Is the possibility of being liberated for the whole life? Because we are afraid of this, and we don't want to look at it because we are afraid of the judgment. But this is the only possibility of recognizing what Christianity is about. And I didn't start to ask him what was his life, no? To do a judgment about his performance in life. Because I don't care. What is the first? What is the most important gesture that Christ has made for you? What is? What would you answer to this question? What is the gesture that Christ has made for you? Baptism. There is no other more powerful than baptism. It's so powerful that even if you deny Christ, baptism is not repeated. Even when people were brought in front of the emperor, in the Roman Empire, and they denied Christ, even in this situation, baptism didn't repeat it. Why? Because baptism is the gesture of Christ with us that says, you are mine. This is the opinion of Christ about me, about you. There is no other opinion, subjective opinion that I can offer to others than this one, and to myself. I can offer to myself another answer most powerful than this one. But if you don't face this fear about what is the opinion of Christ about me, you can understand what is baptism. This is the possibility. What is the foundation of your judgment? This is an example, among others. Everything is a possibility for us. The only question, the only decision is if you don't miss this opportunity, because this opportunity, if you can look at each face, the face of this opportunity, you can become really free. Otherwise, we are entrapped for all our life. Even you can keep participating in the life of the church, but at the end, fear prevails. Uneasiness prevails. Because at the end, we reduce Christianity to our performance, to a set of rules, not at Christ event. And this is, again, a reduction of Christianity, that we reduce Christianity at our capacity of coherence, not a Christ event in our life. There is no other event more powerful than baptism. This is your way. You are mine.
Thank you, Father Julian. It's clear that the work that we began this evening is work that goes on, work in which there are many, many questions and many discoveries still to be made. The work continues systematically in Colorado through the schools of community. And if you make sure that you take home with you the song sheet, you can find the list of the school of communities in the emails to contact. Those school of communities are printed on the bottom of the sheet. There's also an email address there for Marilyn Sakura. If you write to her, she can add you to the CL mailing list, and that way you can be informed of all the events that are going on. There's going to be some refreshments available now at the back of the hall, and those who are going to the 5 p.m. Mass, you've still got a bit of time. God bless you all, and thank you.